Michael woke up in the middle of the night, dizzy for no clear reason. He slowly sat on the edge of the bed, leaned on his hands, and waited for the spinning to stop. Outside, a quiet autumn rain drifted past the window. The room was dark, and only the faint glow of the clock on his nightstand gave the space any shape. He had allowed himself a glass of whiskey with dinner, a routine he'd kept up for years. It always seemed to help him unwind. But lately, he'd noticed that even a small dose of alcohol affected him differently than it used to. At 73, Michael was still fairly active. He took morning walks, cooked for himself, and met up with friends. He was a widower, but he didn't feel lonely. He enjoyed spending evenings in his armchair with a book and his favorite drink. Yet, more and more often after those evenings, he felt a strange heaviness in his head, weakness, and a slight tremor in his body. At first, he blamed it on fatigue, but he soon began to notice that even his morning walks were starting to leave him unusually short of breath. His daughter Sarah, a doctor, noticed during one of her visits that his blood pressure was low and his gait unsteady. Gently, she brought up the possible link between alcohol and his recent symptoms. Michael brushed it off at first, claiming he barely drank at all. But Sarah explained that as we age, the body metabolizes alcohol differently. The liver slows down, and the central nervous system becomes more sensitive. Even a single glass can stay in the bloodstream longer, causing impaired coordination, dizziness, and sudden drops in blood pressure. Soon after that conversation, Michael did fall. It wasn't serious. He simply tripped while going up the P-Toy Krieg porch steps, but he hit his knee and limped for days afterward. That's when he realized that age demands a change in habits. He remembered Sarah telling him that falls are one of the leading causes of serious injury in older adults. Sometimes, all it takes is one wrong move to lose mobility for a long time, or even forever. From that day on, Michael started paying closer attention to himself. He didn't give up his rituals. He simply swapped strong alcohol for something lighter and safer. Most importantly, he began to see self-care not as a restriction, but as a way to preserve his freedom, clarity, and independence. Michael had a special evening. Some old friends dropped by, friends he hadn't seen in over a year. They laughed a lot, reminisced about their youth, and shared updates about their grandchildren. On the table were a cheese platter, nuts, grapes, and a bottle of fragrant muscat wine Michael had saved for just such occasions. The drink was smooth and sweet, warming him gently, as if bringing back carefree times. After one glass, he felt a bit tired, but didn't think much of it. Later, when the guests had left, he suddenly felt his legs turn to jelly, and his thoughts grew foggy. He barely made it to bed and fell asleep without finishing his favorite chapter. The next morning, Michael woke up with a headache and a strange sense of unease. He couldn't focus for a long time. He forgot where he'd put his glasses, got the date wrong, mixed up his pills. The heaviness in his body and a mental fog lingered. He even began to worry that something serious might be starting. Only after a conversation with his daughter did everything fall into place. Sarah calmly explained that the problem wasn't him. It was the wine. More precisely, what was in it? Sweet wines, as Sarah explained, contain not only natural sugars, but also added ones to enhance the flavor. And sugar, especially when combined with alcohol, has a strong impact on blood glucose levels. In older adults, the body loses the ability to quickly and efficiently process it. Even a single glass can trigger a sharp spike, followed by a rapid drop, which causes weakness, irritability, and confusion. On top of that, the wine contained sulfites, chemical additives used to preserve freshness. Michael had often experienced sneezing fits and mild shortness of breath, but he had never connected them to a glass of wine. He should have. As it turned out, sulfites can provoke allergic reactions, especially in those who have become more sensitive to external factors with age. Michael felt relieved to know that his condition wasn't the result of a serious illness, but just a reaction to a drink. But along with that relief came concern. He realized how easily the body's response to wine could be mistaken for signs of age-related decline. This realization pushed him to reconsider his habits. He promised himself to be more cautious, not because he couldn't, but because he now understood how to take better care of himself. And in that, oddly enough, he felt a sense of inner strength. Not from wine, but from understanding. The following week, Michael went to his grandson's football game. It was loud and lively, and nearly every parent or grandparent held a plastic cup of beer. Someone offered one to Michael too, saying a single mug wouldn't hurt and would help warm him up on a chilly day. He hesitated. The atmosphere was warm, the occasion pleasant. After all, he didn't want to seem old-fashioned. He took the beer, had a few sips, and felt that familiar taste of youth. It seemed like a moment where relaxing a little was perfectly fine. But within an hour, he was struggling to stay on his feet. His head felt cloudy, his eyes teared up, and his legs were weak and unsteady. He sat down on a bench and tried not to show it. By nightfall, pain flared up in his big toe, as if hot needles were piercing the joint. Michael recognized the signal. Gout, an old but rare visitor, had returned with unexpected force. The next morning, Sarah came by to check on her father. Hearing about the beer, she didn't scold him, but calmly explained that beer contains compounds that trigger gout flare-ups, purines. These break down into uric acid, which builds up in the joints. As we age, the body becomes less efficient at eliminating this excess, and even one beer can provoke an attack. But that wasn't the only surprise. Sarah explained that beer, especially light beer, is full of simple carbohydrates. These quickly convert into sugar and cause blood glucose spikes. In older people, such fluctuations aren't just unpleasant. They pose real risks, from energy crashes to sleep disturbances and irritability. And beer is a powerful diuretic. That means dehydration, especially dangerous at night. Frequent trips to the bathroom, broken sleep, and morning fatigue. Michael had already felt all of that, but never connected it to his drink. Cocktails, as Sarah reminded him, were even trickier. They combine alcohol and sugar, often in large amounts. The taste is pleasant, the alcohol nearly unnoticeable, and people end up drinking more than they realize. The consequences? Impaired coordination, blood pressure swings, headaches, and forgetfulness. Michael understood. The danger wasn't in a single drink, but in how that drink affected his aging body. He no longer felt like an old man being told what he can't do. On the contrary, he felt empowered, because now he had a choice. And that choice was for a clear mind, strong joints, and peaceful nights. Michael sat on the veranda, wrapped in a blanket, watching the spring tulips bloom in the garden. On the table beside him stood a tall glass, not of wine, not of beer, but of a refreshing drink with bubbles and slices of orange. It was a spritzer he had recently discovered, dry red wine diluted with sparkling water and a splash of lemon. The drink was light, elegant, and easy on the body. It didn't bring intoxication, but it created that very atmosphere. Soft, inviting reflection and conversation. After his talks with Sarah, Michael had reconsidered his relationship with alcohol, not out of fear, but because he had come to understand his body better. He didn't want to lose energy, clarity, or mobility over fleeting pleasures. Instead, He found new rituals, just as enjoyable, but much safer. He tried kombucha, a tart, fermented tea with live probiotics. At first, the taste seemed odd, but within a few days, he noticed his digestion improving, his mood evening out, and his mornings becoming easier. Adaptogenic mocktails were another discovery. Sarah had brought him a bottle labeled lavender and lemon balm, and without expecting much, Michael poured some over sparkling water. The taste was subtle, smooth, almost meditative. But the real surprise was how he felt afterward. No drowsiness, no heaviness. On the contrary, he felt light, calm, and warmly focused. These drinks didn't dull the senses. They supported them. They didn't distract from reality. They helped him stay fully present in it, with energy and awareness. There was a moment when Michael feared he'd no longer enjoy social gatherings the way he used to. But he soon realized it wasn't about the strength of the drink, it was about the people, the atmosphere, the meaning of those moments. He started bringing beautiful bottles of non-alcoholic drinks to get-togethers. And to his surprise, others quickly took interest. Everyone wanted just a taste. And then they thanked him. Now, every sip for Michael had become a reminder. He wasn't giving up pleasure. He was making it intentional. Instead of chasing instant relaxation, he chose long-term clarity, balance, and freedom. And each time, he raised a glass filled with a new flavor. He felt not loss, but gain, of health, vitality, and most importantly, of respect for himself and for the life he still wanted to live with his eyes wide open.